Finally. And I know that's what you're thinking too. Sorry, guys, I've had one problem after another this evening. I'm with you now, though. So I do apologise for being almost 45 minutes late. It's just been rough, is what it's been. How is everyone? Thank you very much for hanging around. I kind of thought, oh god, this isn't going to work, and then thought that was it. That was the end of the stream this evening. But there are a lot of you in here. Hello. It's just been a very, very rough start to the stream. I was not expecting it to be like this. I am flat-footed completely. But how is everyone? Let's see who we got. Matthew, Notorious, Edison, Corn Cob, all good. Yeah, Edison, I've been back a few hours. It's just not gone my way this evening at all, so I do apologise for keeping you all waiting. Yeah, but thank you very much for everyone's here. Yes, Avi, I am indeed alive. I know that I've been online for a little bit. I was focusing on getting the stream up and running, but I was aware that you guys were messaging. I am okay. Still in one piece, but yes, we will get things underway shortly. Macho, hello. Good evening, mate. The good news is you've missed precisely nothing. But yes, we are with you. Apologies for all of that. Good. Fantastic. Well, the good news is that we've had a little bit of news. I say we've had a little bit of news. It's been a little bit of a while since it came out, but we've had Q&A on the Tumblestorm. And for those who know about air brake gate, it's not air brakes. Yes, just poking a little fun. There are pop-up panels all over the tank, and one of the discussions in the Info Runners channel went a little bit interesting regarding what they could and couldn't be. We've had the answer, and spoiler alert, not air brakes. But we'll have a look in just a second. But yeah, we're there. Yeah, it could absolutely be a zombie badges. Yeah, no, I'll be fine in a zombie apocalypse, and you know how I know? It's because they eat brains. So I'm not even a snag. We'll be fine. Yeah. So, oh right. Eggs is already down. Stop cooking, says Avi. Yeah, possibly. Well, let's have a look, shall we? I'm kind of interested to see what they did say about it. So let's kick across. I'm just going to make sure that everything's there before we do. Oh, it is. So we'll kick back, and then I'll try and do that a little bit more professionally. Ready? Possibly. I mean, that might have been professionally, that might not. I'll leave you guys up to decide. But yeah, some interesting bits and pieces, because I think we've had some actual, what looks like artwork on the Storm that looks a little bit more in-gamey, is that a thing? In-gamey, than the concept art we've had now. And it looks pretty, and it confirms some of what we've said, and some of what X said about the tank, and not so much everything else. Okay, so here's what it says about the Storm. So, what would it fit inside? They've confirmed that it's got the same sort of footprint as the Nova and the Atlas. So that seems to be lengthwise more than anything else. And then it does mention reduced height to some ships that cannot fit above. And I'm kind of hoping that'll put it in the Valkyrie. And that will kind of mark the Valkyrie out slightly different than some of the other assault carriers. So that'll be cool if it does. Because I think that's all that's stopping our Nova from going up the ramp, is the fact that it's so damn tall it can't actually sit in. But yeah, I mean they've kind of made the the same point, and I think the community's picked up on the same thing. Excuse me, which is that the Storm, although being described as a light tank, which is more a role than anything else, that it just actually, there's not that much difference between the two. Yeah, and they say the two things. The two tanks operate vastly different roles. The Storm is fast and lightly armed, while the Nova is much larger and slower, but packs more of a punch. Massively so. But it does mention there that the Storm's dimensions allow it to be carried by many other ships, allowing for greater flexibility in terms of transport and deployment. And they actually mentioned by name Carrack and Corsair, which is kind of interesting. What's Carrack doing? Carrying a tank. I don't know. I guess there would be a role for it, but in terms of what the Carrack's role is, doesn't make the greatest deal of sense. But okay, that's where they've gone for. How fast is the Storm intended to be compared to other ground combat vehicles? They're not doing specifics. Faster than the Nova and Atlas, closer to the Ursa in speed, which makes a lot of sense. Able to rush forward, kind of get into fire support positions, and then kind of provide cover as Atlases move forward against light vehicles. So you're talking other rovers, lynxes, and the kind of tumbrel, the cyclone size vehicles, and put some serious firepower down against people, which is kind of what light tanks do, right? For this, I'm thinking more of the light fighting vehicles, kind of Bradley-esque, although the Bradley is an armoured an infantry fighting vehicle, that sort of thing. What are the vertical plates supported by the struts? Decoration? Question mark. Rule of cool decorative pieces. Although they are inspired by some modern world standoff armour panels that deflect incoming rounds away from sensitive areas. So they're talking about these bits that stand up here. These bits. Okay. And that was the bit that was weird for me, because like this one is in line with the way the tank's going, so it's not really an air brake because it's not generating any friction. We thought maybe they were some sort of detector panel, or maybe like a shield emitter, but no, turns out they're just panels. Yeah, exploring other people's bases with the Carrack. Yes, absolutely, I am exploring your stuff. Certainly a possibility. I do kind of like that artwork of the shot through of the Hercules looking straight towards that little UGF or tiny city, whatever it is there in the distance. That's kind of cool. The Storm is clearly visible smoke and chaff launchers, which we said about it when we saw the images, like those found on modern tanks. Will this vehicle have countermeasures like noise and flares? Yeah, full suite of countermeasures. I mean, they didn't say, will it have countermeasures like smoke? But what they're talking about are these things here, right? Is that you load them up with various different rounds. So maybe one of them is smoke. One of them is something that defeats electromagnetic seekers. Some of them are IR, so infrared, and defeat heat-seeking missiles. It is kind of cool that these things could kind of just go into combat and then pop these things. Because if you've ever seen these things with smoke, they basically throw smoke canisters up, and it's almost instant. They explode in the air around the tank, these smoke canisters, and create just this instant canopy of cover. It's not like, throwing a smoke grenade out waiting for it to ignite. These things deploy instantly. It's really, really cool. I kind of hope they're going to go that way with it in the game. What is tactical spec armor, and how does it differ from the mil spec components that have been offered in the past? Marketing phrase, no specific behavior in game. Yep. Cool. Yeah. So rule of cool stuff again with both the armour panel and the language that they're using. How well defended is this tank compared to, say, the Nova, Ursa or Centurion, and how does it armour fare of comparison? In terms of durability, it sits between the Nova and the Centurion and has significantly more than the Ursa, as you'd expect, right? So yeah, sits exactly where it is. It's second only to the Nova in terms of armour at this stage, and then yeah, a lot more than the lighter vehicles. As tanks are intended to be off-road vehicles, will the low ground clearance of this model limit traversal? Does the tread configuration of the Storm give it any sort of advantage when hitting obstacles on rough terrain? Storm has relatively good ground clearance, especially compared to the Nova, and its design allows for much greater arrival or departure angles without hitting the hull. Okay. Allows for much greater arrival or departure angles. I guess. Yeah. I guess they kind of mean that, it can ride up all sorts of stuff, because it doesn't look articulated, so they don't look like they can bob up and down independently. I guess we'll see when it launches. Will the bespoke size 3 weapon have the same upscale damages for its size? For example, the size 5 Slayer cannon for the Nova. Oh wow. Yeah, okay. Like the Nova, the size of the weapon doesn't truly follow the other systems. Okay, and that makes sense, because I think that was everyone's worry, wasn't it? That the Nova seemed to be massively undergunned. So if you missed the stuff on the marketing, this is an energy auto cannon, which doesn't really describe it at all. I think in ship terms it's probably best to think of it as an energy repeater. Now, it's likely not going to be as... If it's following a true autocannon, it's likely to not be as fast. So, I mean, to give you an idea, I'm trying to think of the American name. Someone in chat help me out. What are the fighting vehicles called again? Bushmasters. Right? So the 20mm cannon on top of the American Bushmaster light tank is effectively just doof, 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 doof. Thanks for whoever clipped that the first time round. Don't do it again. You monsters. But in effect, it's designed to sit somewhere, very much above a squad automatic weapon, where it's got 20mm hard rounds have enough hitting power to go through all but seriously armoured vehicles. So, it'll tear through improvised vehicles and civilian everyday use. It'll rip through the walls of houses and stuff like that. They are seriously powerful. So, your infantry that you've just dismounted are under attack, put a bunch of 20mm through the wall of the building they're coming under fire from, that's going to be the end of that target. Either neutralised or so terrified by what they've just been fired on, that they will become combat ineffective, or at least that's the theory. And this seems to be very much the same thing, except obviously energy. Energy good, because it means that we're not having to muck around with ammo, it's just a power thing, and then bad because it doesn't have all the obvious advantages of hard rounds. Cool. What about barrel elevation and depression? Considering the Nova's barrel can't depress far enough to aim a little downward, how does the Storm fare? Well, you'd expect it to be pretty good set up on that mount. All stats subject to change. Safe to say the Storm's depression and elevation ranges are significantly better, allowing you to hit things on the ground almost directly in front and to the side of the vehicle. To achieve this, the turret extends up a little when the vehicle powers on. Okay, yes. And a lot of that makes sense from... Yeah, the Nova doesn't need traversal angles. Just dink. I am the weapon and just drive through the building. Done. God, full building destruction like the Frostbite engine. Can you imagine in Star Citizen? I mean, you wouldn't want to do it, because we're gamers, right? We break everything in the game and then whinge that nothing looked like it was complete and everything looked like a building site, where in reality that was our fault. But, yeah. Yeah, so that to me indicates that it's much more a support vehicle than a primary combat vehicle. Although, having said that, against anything, other than a Nova, it should come out in top, because if you're dealing with infantry with heavy weapons, you've got range, you've got speed, you've got all that sort of stuff that's going to help out, right? Yeah. This one is the size 3 weapon was an intentional design choice, as the bespoke nature of the gun allows it to perform very strongly for its size. We didn't want the Storm to be excessively overgunned or be too much for a sole driver to manage and fight with compared to other vehicles. Yeah, I suppose as the number of guns go up, the number of crew goes up, and very, very quickly you're looking close to, Nova crew size again. Does it have any additional ways to fight off small targets like infantry, since it doesn't have a size 1 anti-personnel repeater? No, ideally not modern life, if you do not want infantry getting close to our vehicles. But if you find yourself in this scenario, we recommend using the speed of the vehicle to get distance between you and the infantry, which is exactly what I've just said, right? Combined arms, you can run forward and be very punchy and deal a lot of damage with a couple of armoured vehicles. But if you're looking to thoroughly clear out an area, or take and hold a position, then you want at least infantry and support, and possibly some air support as well. But yeah, didn't totally. Matthew says totally didn't chuck an entire team's C4 supply on the quad bike to go to the objective building or make a sniper a Christmas tree with beacons. Yeah, absolutely. If they're going to make ground vehicles have different damage scales, they really should just differentiate ground guns versus ship guns. Yeah. Yeah. I think this worry is going to keep coming up until they do, Matthew. You're entirely right. Is that people are just going to go, because one of the things we know about Star Citizen, right, is most people don't read any of it, like at all. So you'll have, no one's or very few people compared to the huge amount of people that follow Star Citizen are going to get into the Q&A like we do. We are among the minority, so it's just going to keep coming up and up over and over again until they do make a distinction. You're right. Is the driver's control of the turret restricted to the area in front of the vehicle? Does it have proper 360-degree rotation? It has proper rotation, allowing for views around the vehicle. That's not particularly clear. So, obviously, the driver and the Nova can fire and control weapons in a very limited forward arc. So the question is, can the Storm do that while moving and switch to the rotate side, or does it mean that it stops? Which apparently they're answering in the next question, so let's find out. Storm has a remote operated turret. Can the Storm fire while in motion, or does it have to stop to enter the remote turret interface in order to fire? So can control the turret while on the move or stationary. Whilst moving, the view limits are constrained to the front arc of the vehicle. Okay, so it's going to be exactly like the Nova. Perfect. Astro Katana says, only if they can complain about it. Well, yes, absolutely. That's it. Yeah, there's I've often thought about trying to put together so almost like Jesus Christ, this is a game, and I can't believe the next sentence is about to come out of my mouth about a game, but I was thinking about putting together some sort of bibliography about claims that CIG have made that are commonly referenced by us, that new backers, and by new backers I mean like anyone within the last 5 years-ish, just won't have knowledge of unless they've been shown it. So where they say, oh yeah, we're going to give you this, and put together a here's the link to the document, or here's the video it's said in, but then maybe not, I don't know, maybe I'll just get on with my life instead. Because of bibliography for a game, really, um, it's daft. Because how old does something have to be before CIG can say, yeah, actually, do you know what? We're not doing it that way anymore. Because a while back, it was not the intention to have it like it is now with no loading screens. There are still things in the comlink where Chris talks about the loading screen and then, the very carefully curated approach to a major landing zone. But there was a loading screen between space and that, and they've changed that. So, the brochure indicates there's personal weapon storage, but the picture suggests there might also be personal inventory space in the rear track. Is this the case? There's personal weapon storage in one of the front track housings and inventory space near the driver's entrance. The rear of the main body contains critical components, including the power plant cooler, a shield generator, whilst the other front track houses less critical components, like the radar, computer, and battery. Cool. Reading hard. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, the nice thing about it is they've said it, so at least if you put together that list, you can go, yeah, I know they've changed what they've said, and here's the links to those. But they did say that way back when, and there's the link. Because they've said it, they can't take back saying it and pretend like it didn't happen, except by making stuff disappear, I guess. But yeah. A single size 0 power plant seems very underpowered when compared to other vehicles. I'm just going to make sure that that's not peeking us out here on the music side. There we go. That's better, I think. Okay. So, a single-size 0 power plant seems to be very underpowered when compared with other vehicles. Will this be sufficient to power not only the vehicle itself, but also its shields and bespoke energy autocannon? How do you intend to support this should a single power plant prove to be insufficient in the future? Something we'll expand upon, but the upcoming resource network changes have given us the opportunity to re-evaluate sizes and quantities of items aboard all vehicles, which is interesting. Newer vehicles can seem to be under-specced, but in reality they'll operate effectively as designed. Some vehicles will also have items reduced to be more in line with the upcoming changes. Interesting. So they've definitely changed something then. Yeah. Bizarre. Just catching up with your comments, sorry. So, was looking at Italy and noted they once said they were going to have a Titan Shoot charger module, but that's out of the picture now. Yeah. Like, no one can agree if the death of... Matthew says, no one can agree on Death of the Spaceman as Tier 1 for revival. Yet the most recent one said Tier 2 can respawn if in a clinic. Yet we don't know if the Carrack, etc. keeps respawns. I'm going to come out with an unpopular opinion here. I think the Death of a Spaceman's like final form. I don't think I don't think medbeds and respawn are necessarily going to be the same function. And the reason I say that is, let's take the Javelin for etc. Let's imagine that it keeps its absolutely crazy crew complement of 80. Or let's imagine they drop it to 30, right? 30 crew on a Javelin, maybe. Hello, Ravenfoot. Thanks for joining us, buddy. If they can all respawn, that's 60 or 90 crew if they can respawn once or twice each. Right, so as you kill them, they just come back and respawn. That's kind of crazy. Shinobi Trip, so am I, buddy. I've actually only been online for about half an hour, if that, probably more like 20 minutes. So you have not missed much at all, my friend. So I don't think necessarily it makes sense for all of medbeds of a tier. I think a respawn module or a respawn facility might well end up being different. Because otherwise, in the verse, with Death of a Spaceman being what it is, I think a medbed just becomes far too important a feature to have to not have it. You'd have to be pretty mad to not then have that if you're going deep space exploring and stuff, and that just wipes a load of vehicles out, right? And I think if you look at that, then decisions for ships like the Perseus, the Valkyrie, to not have a medbed makes more sense if none of them can automatically respawn. So yeah, and I also think like ships. I mean, if ships medbeds do, you'd have to impose so many restrictions because you'd have to say things like, I mean, maybe cloned bodies are a commodity, and you need to carry them. Like clone pods, egg sacs from Matrix, whatever kind of sci-fi trope you go for. It's really interesting. How far it's gonna, or how far down that road they're gonna take it. Maybe it's specific medical vessels like the Galaxy, the Apollo, and certainly like the Endeavour Hope. The Endeavour with its medical modules, you'd expect something like that maybe could have either its own bespoke module for it, or one of those bays allows a respawning module, because then they're dedicated to that, right? Even though the Galaxy is modular, if you put the medical module in it, it's a medical ship. Same the Apollo, same the Endeavour Hope, depending on the modules you put on it. So yeah. It'll be interesting, but there's a lot of stuff they need to do with medical, because at the moment the 3 tiers don't really make sense. I've got a video in the works. It's been in the works for a long time. So can't quite get it the way I want it, but it's been a long time in the making, and it'll explain more about this. But basically, it doesn't matter how many tiers you've got if the solution to all of them is precisely the same. You're wasting tiers. If it's just by degrees, you'll be 40% of your normal walking speed, but if you're that tier, you'll be 50%, but if you're that tier, you'll be 60%. It's like, you're just providing kind of gradation for gradation's sake. Hopefully this is coming across not as crazy. I'm not like that dude in front of the board going, but you'll get what I mean, right? So we'll have to see. Matthew says, in my opinion, I'd like it where Tier 3 stabilizes, Tier 2 is full heals, and Tier 1 is respawn and can scan an area. Avi says, Tier 1 will probably be way more efficient or something, so it gets way more respawns per SCU. Macho says, medical units will work. Yeah, absolutely, guys. It's, we can't hold them to this all the time. Let's do this one. This will be fun. But yeah. So I just think that there's work there to do, and that there needs to be things that you can fix in the field. And what I keep coming back to is, let's say I take my Connie Andromeda, which is fully, supposed to be an exploring vehicle. I've got my rover in it, I've got my supplies or whatever, I'm ready to go. We get in the Connie and off we go, right? 4 of us into the distance to explore. And one of the very first things that happens, we're in a cave and some sort of, I don't know, giant scorpion comes and dinks me in the head. So now my hearing is muffled, my vision is blurred. What's the first thing I've got to do? Turn everyone around to get that fixed? Because there's a real world implication to that. If I give you muffled audio and blurred vision for the entire time that you're playing, right, you're going to get a headache and quit. That's not even a gameplay thing. That's, you can't force people to read blurred stuff. And I know no one's forcing you to play a game. But that just means that the first thing that happens for any explorer that doesn't have a medbed is turn around and go home. That's just rubbish. And the thing is if there are You've got the med pens, which enable you to deal with it in the immediate time. But what about then being able to bandage them up? You know, think about DayZ. You've got the leg thing. You can continue to walk around on a broken leg, but all you're doing is walking. You can splint the leg, which allows you to jog, but not sprint. So the loss of sprint is not the end of the world. Yeah, because you can still move with everyone else. What you can't do is operate quickly to get yourself, to sprint quickly to get yourself out of trouble. So when another beastie rears its head, you obviously don't want to be at the front. And that's a proper change in gameplay. I can still participate. I just can't be point man. I can't be the one putting myself at most risk. And what about the one that, for the tier 1 injury is like, we can sort you out and you can operate normally, but you leaving the ship is a really bad idea because you are just not going to be there. And there's a little bit more detail I think they can put into medical. But yeah. Yeah, exactly, Machi. We get something annoying, we drop the sound. But what if the annoying thing is blurred vision? What if the annoying thing is everything you see? Your mobiGlass, your how you interact with the world. What if that's the annoying thing? And then what if it's taken you and your guys 5-6 hours to get where they are? Like for me, I'd quit. I'd log out. And I'd be like, guys, don't, because you're going to have to turn around for a couple of hours to come back again for a couple of hours. I don't want to be a burden. Enjoy your game. I'll join you on the next one. And it's not me throwing a tantrum. No, I don't want to play anymore. But that makes sense, right? So, I think the drugs are a way to manage things in extremis. Like right at the time is pop that. Get myself out of trouble, get myself back to the shuttle, get myself back to whatever. The other thing is that they talk about, when the medical Pisces came out, John Crew talked about using the medical Pisces as an ambulance. Why? Because if the medical Pisces can't fix it, then why use it? It's completely useless. Like, if you've got a tier 1 injury and I put you into a tier 3 medbed, it does nothing for you at all. So why use it as an ambulance? I could use anything I wanted at that point. As long as it can take another person, why not just use the normal Pisces, more cargo space? So yeah, it's really weird. I can hear myself talking. Yeah, so the thing with the drugs is the drugs are temporary. Because I don't know if you've noticed that if you using the drugs to manage them all the time, you'll overdose. Because you don't reach 0 before the drug runs out. So like it goes in at 7%, and I think by the time it wears out, you're at 4. So the next time it goes in, you're at 11%. The next time it goes in, you're at, so you can't manage it constantly on drugs. So the way I think that works is there's something missing. So I'm in trouble, drugs. Right? That'll get me out. Now, what is the long-term effect? Because if I'm hurting the leg, I limp around. And I think, okay, if you've got a tier 3 medbed, great, you can fix it. If you've got a tier 2 injury, what about the idea being that you can splint it? So there's another way other than just medbeds to fix things. Because now, the constellation isn't looking as hampered. Because now there's a way that I can fix your vision without you having to go back to somewhere with a medbed. But maybe I can patch your head up, which enables you to deal even with a tier 1 injury that removes the blurriness and the dampened sound, but now you can't fit a space helmet on. So you're able to function, you're able to be on the ship, you're able to jump in the Merlin, you're able to drive the rover. You're still able to do that, but as someone who's injured, you're now doing the less risky tasks. Yeah, maybe you're sat in the top turret providing Overwatch where people explore something risky. Do you see what I mean? So that there's options for that. Maybe you just become someone who can't sprint with a tier 2 leg injury. I'll splint the leg for you. that'll be fine. But not everything becomes, because if the solution to everything is just go to a med bed and that's the only way we can deal with it, med bed becomes the most powerful thing in the game. Hey, Wrestler. Good to see you, buddy. Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. Now that I've finally got myself online, had a bit of a mare of an evening. Yeah, and I think that's the point, Matthew. Is that if you can the C8R, if they do that with medical and give you more options, the C8R makes a lot more sense. Maybe it, manages the symptoms better for you. Sorry, I've just had a moth fly in. Yeah, so if you suddenly get a screaming black shape in front of the it's a moth friend. So yeah, yay, moth friend, moth friend. So yeah, cool. Even the moth wants to know about Star Citizen. Yeah, so medical's a little bit of an interesting one for me. And I kind of will die on this hill because it's the only thing that really makes sense to me on that front is the notion that there's something else that can happen, because just returning to base it's just a very poor kind of, it doesn't give us options, and that's what you should have, right? It should be options. Don't treat it, remain wounded, go back to medical thing, get it completely fixed. Something in the middle makes sense. But there you go. Or is this my air brakes? I don't know. Okay, Macho says, that is why they need to work on the medical gameplay. C8 hours good for small injuries. Avi says, have they said what the tier they consider medical to be? At, I'd say, above tier 0. But I don't know if it's over tier 1.5-ish. I think the tier thing's going to be a bit weird. Dude, chill. Blech. I just got dive bombed by a moth. Sorry, it's like, dude, chill out. I don't know. I don't know kind of how set in stone the tier stuff is. I would envisage going forward that tiers are just going to be, we're going to get to the point where, like, hello, we're doing tier 27 in whatever it is, in this thing, because that's how we look at it. But I think at the moment, medical, let's have a look. It's not a bad shout. Let's go and find what we can from the roadmap. So where were we in medical? It was a long old time. Oh, here's a pop quiz for you. In which patch was medical released? So let's go and have a look. So, improved throw, it wasn't there, was it? FPS combat, enunciate panels. It was before mining heads, after mining heads. 314. Oh, we've got one 314. What do we reckon? Clink gameplay. No sir. What about 312? Mining UI refactor. Multi-room tractable attachment, weapons and items. UI reputation, mission, small clothes, mounted guns. Good lord. 317. Oh no, it's been around much longer than 317. Surely. Here we go. That's NPC healing. So when did the Cutty Red go in? Good call. Law System version 1. Well, it wasn't 2019. It was more recent than that, right? Harvestables, ship rentals. Good lord. Because it'll have a weapon and tech entry as well, won't it? Good lord. Where is it? Oh, there you go. 315. Locations. They've not called it core gameplay or something, so have they? So NPC allows players to heal other players and NPCs. There we go. So 315 it was. Okay, so 315. There's your healing. So November 10th, and healing went in as, of course it doesn't say. Heal other players and NPCs, which doesn't help that they've called it NPC healing. Yeah, absolutely. So do we have it after that? Have they done anything to it since? So it almost looks like a tier 0, doesn't it? I would take from that it's kind of thrown in and that's it. Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so crikey, that's more recent than I thought it was. Less than 2 years ago. Is it honestly less than 2 years ago we've had it? It feels like a lot more. I don't know what you guys think, but it feels like we've had it a lot more than 2 years. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, this is when people realise that they can nick like med pens and stuff off other people. So just walking up to them and interacting and nicking the med pen or nicking the med gun and just running away with it. And it looks like, and I don't mean to be a little bit negative about this. Let's hop on to the next thing then, and have a look. It looks like that 320 is going to be. Let's get all this stuff closed. But 320 is going to be the Arena Commander patch. Now, there are other reasons to be, I think, excited about 320, other than just what's coming in the content. But we've got Ship Trespass, which is not a small thing. As they alluded to, that's actually quite complicated. So that's interesting. We've got Retrieve Consignments, and then there's a lot of Arena Commander. Update, new racetracks, new speedway, Jericho Station, elimination map, experimental game modes, dogfighting map, security outpost career. Okay. It is very much an Arena Commander patch. And then the whole sea, and hopefully some improvements to wheel ground vehicle movement and handling. I think they were saying to try and make them feel a little bit more unique and separate from each other. Yeah, there's a lot coming that's Arena Commander, but the thing to remember here is that these two patches, 318 and 319, 319 isn't actually 319, right? Macho says, I have an unpopular opinion here, I don't care much for Arena Commander. Yeah, I think its importance is going to grow as Death of a Spaceman becomes a thing, because it allows you to do stuff in an environment where death means absolutely nothing. I'm sure there are a couple of people who are going to look at Security Outpost Korea as the way to get familiar with the new layout, just because they don't want to go there and get ganked in PvP by invisible bad guys, or invisible PvPers, who may or may not know that they're invisible. I'm sure they'll claim they're not, even if they know. But 3.19 was actually released on the 3.18 branch. So what we don't have is a complete rehash to take account of PES. The patches to fix PES have been very much frontline first stage firefighting to try and undo the damage and just get people logged in. So I'm hoping that, given the fact that we're talking Q3, so what are we talking? The end of August. Yeah. September, end of September, something like that. And then that should hopefully allow more time to integrate those changes and once again kind of speed things up, fix things a little bit more. At least you'd hope, right? So yeah, I think, they needed 3.19 in as quickly as possible, which is why 3.19 wasn't stood on its own branch. There's a video in the back of one of Star Citizen Lives, one of the hour-longs, and they went through about 15-20 minutes of how the patches work and how things are added. So people work on the 3.18 branch, and then the people work on the 3.19 branch, but 3.19 is engineered a little more, or should have been, with things more integrated. And what they did was actually they just kept working on 3.18, because obviously that takes extra time. 3.18 being the absolute dumpster fire that it was. They had to do something to get people, you've got to do something drastic when a proportion of your player base can't even log in. So they had to do something, and obviously that's what they tried. So, don't blame them for getting 3.19 out quickly. They had to. I'm just hoping now that with 3.20 we'll see a lot of the cracks kind of glossed over. But Monster Heavy says, not going to lie, pretty hyped for Arena Commander rework upgrade, because days where I have an hour or so will make Star Citizen better than just doing a single bunker. Tonk battles oh my god, Tonk battles look amazing. And low-key multi-crew gameplay in Arena Commander, allowing properly crewed Tonks. Yes, please. I'll take some of that. Macho says, I think the ship Trespass is great. Halsey is nice. The rest is pretty much meh. Rassiner says, I'll be glad to see multi-crew in Arena Commander. Yep, exactly. That will help with ship team tactics and strategy considerably. Will also be a good way to cross-train org mates when needed. Yeah, it just gets you into that combat. It just gives you that instant hit of combat with multi-crew without the hour plus of getting everyone into the same place at the same time, as bug-free as you can manage. I think, moving forward, what I'd like to see is Arena Commander, including Star Marine, and possibly Theatres of War, become something that is, at least on a limited basis, free to play. And that way then people can get a taste of what Star Citizen is about when we get closer to a commercial release, and allow people to kind of experience all the controls where it doesn't matter. So, there's going to be a hell of a learning curve to this game. I keep saying it, and it doesn't make it any less true. But, just going into an area where death doesn't matter, you can just deathmatch to your heart's content, understand how combat goes, and also, especially through Theatres of War, even if it's limited to a couple of, beginner maps, as it were, and then the rest of us get access to non-newbie infested areas, to maybe play a little bit more of a tactical game. But yeah, absolutely. Matthew says, I kind of want Arena Commander to turn into Halo Forge. Just get some weird fun game modes where they can test out physics and mechanics. Yeah, and that's exactly what they're doing with the custom game modes. which is down in here somewhere. Experimental game modes. It's exactly what they're doing. And look, testing is no bad thing. Giving people the ability, just giving them a game mode where they go, hey, we want to test grenade launchers, so go nuts. Everyone gets grenade launchers. And just watch us blow each other and everything else to all hell. Because what they can do is they can look at, okay, we put 30 players, 20 players in a location and spam grenades. What does that look like for load? Now let's scale that out to the rest of it. You know, how do we make this work and not completely crash the system? You know, what about a missiles only arena commander mode? You know, swarm thing. Loads of stuff they can do to get us testing things. Yeah, it works. It's just not necessarily something that everyone's involved in or interested in. And I get it. You don't have to be. I'm not particularly interested in Star Marine and or Arena Commander, but I appreciate the value that they bring and the testbed that they are. You know, and I think certainly, I mean, the race loops, I think every single race loop that they have needs to come out on Arena Commander. Because there's nothing worse that even if all you are doing is, you know, racing around Lawnville. Like I just went ham on the Lawville race circuit and died about 4 corners in. Right, just could not pull out of something in a Pisces. And I was living on Lawville, and now I've got to travel to, you know, even if I'm just doing it in my surgical gown, travel on the metro to the spaceport, get on the spaceport, then travel back to that location. What I should be able to do is go escape, restart, or escape, quit, try another circuit, and literally when I explode, just go restart, yes, no. And at least learn the circuits, because, you know, trying to get round and understand the circuits the first time, sure, you could do it in slow time, but being able to do it without all the other faff, I think is really important. So yeah. Try doing the race loops in large ships, says Matthew. It's nightmare level difficulty. I don't doubt it, mate. I don't doubt it at all. But yeah, Retina says, game already has a monster learning curve. CIG's goal should be to break it down into bite-sized chunks and also make it repeatable and digestible. Perhaps even have a tutorial mode in AC that takes advantage of its capabilities to walk the player through all the things one can do in the verse. Yeah. And what's really interesting in not knowing what anyone's feelings are on Squadron 42 in the chat, not being able to assign specific attitudes towards it, Squadron 42 is going to do that. It's a hell of a function for Squadron 42 is make people familiar with how we control games. So yeah. Matthew says, I think the point is that Arena Commander that we know is completely changing. Tried it in a Prowler, it was shocking. Yeah, Prowler, not the best thing to go and do fine control stuff in. That thing handles like a brick. And I'm really hoping it gets a little bit more fine control. But the Prowler should be, you know, because you just go to Gravlev mode and just literally bounce off rocks. So you just go, Gravlev. So the Prowler should be low-key, a really, really nifty little racer, in terms of not dying. Matthew says, I personally cannot wait for Squadron 42. Yeah, exactly that. And, you know, Squadron 42, look, certain games do really, really well because they have a following of people who've played the games before it. I am sure one of the reasons Starfield's going to do really well is people are familiar with Bethesda games. So unless, like, Starfield has captured your attention and nothing else has beforehand, I'm sure there's a lot of people who have played Skyrim, who've played Fallout, who've done all that stuff before, who are going to go in and it's going to feel familiar to them. Just getting into the game, right? Like real-time strategies are familiar to us, right? Click and drag and click on a building that produces, right-click on the map. You know you've created a rally point for whatever that building produces, and so on and so forth. There needs to be that familiarity with it, and Squadron 42 will do that as well. One of the things I did want to do, is just because I believe in responding to you guys properly, is I just want to go and have a look very quickly at my previous video. And just respond to a couple of the comments in there, because there are some comments that are made that I feel like it's worth responding to, not to be angry or anything like that, just because there are some really, really good comments in here, so we can do that in just a little bit as well. But yeah, and then you get to see behind the scenes with all my special stuff and whatnot. Yeah, it's just plugins that tell you about how you're doing and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, cool. Okie dokie. Beard meets food. Yeah, that guy's a legend. There are some people out there that I would really like to record playing games if they're into games. Beard meets food is one of them. But that dude's a legend. Yeah, Retina Bonus says, people are either going to really love or really hate Starfield. We'll see. What worries me about Starfield, and it's not the Starfield, it's the community, is watching the frenzy before that game comes out is like watching the frenzy that happened for Cyberpunk. And I can only imagine what's going to happen if it doesn't go the way people want it to. Now, there are lots of things that have said that Bethesda have been told to delay Starfield for the last couple of delays, to get it right and to get it polished and everything else, which I hope. But yeah, I'm going to be playing it when it comes out, absolutely. Yeah, and then Matthew says, I bet most people are getting Squadron 42 for the F7C Lightning. Absolutely, why wouldn't you? Well, the pick up and go will help. As just save outside the base and jump back in. I think a Arena Commander will help with the respecting time thing, but tough to say. Yeah, because in a world where everything's getting quicker, there's something to be said for the game that wants you to take its time. But there is a reason why everything is becoming quicker, right? So there's a reason why we need to have that immediate accessibility. Maybe a Arena Commander provides that, you're right. Hype train is real for Starfield, says Macho. I just have a wait and see stance. Till then, no hype for me. No, I was kind of hoping the Consolation Edition, but it's a lot of money. I'm not quite sure when it's due out. I think it's September, isn't it? But I've got a lot of things going on between then and now. One of those things is a group of friends and I are running a Warhammer 40,000 campaign on the tabletop. We build the models and paint them and all that sort of stuff, right? So I don't know how well this is going to show on the video. I'm just going to change you guys over quickly. Chat only, hello. But I have things like this. Right, my house is full of models and bits and pieces from all times in my life. So I have everything from. Let's pick up one of these guys. Here we go. Okay, so this is from my Scions army. Astra. Fuck off. That. Okay, so I don't know how well. That's obviously not coming through particularly well. Are you gonna focus on it a little? No? Do I need to come forward so you focus on it? God damn it. Yeah, so basically guys like that I'm in the middle of painting and whatnot. But yeah, so I've got all these sorts of guys, and we are running a massive campaign. I think at the moment there's about 12, 14 of us that are involved. and we're going up to Warhammer World in September, which is their big flagship store. There's a huge indoor gaming area, loads of tables. You can go and book them. We've just booked a bunch of tables. They've got tables that if you and I were to go into the shop and buy what we needed for it, you're talking thousands of pounds per table. So yeah, there's lots of stuff. Heresy. Friendship is magic. Magic is heresy. But yeah, there's loads of stuff. So yeah, not only do I buy imaginary online spaceships, I also buy plastic toys to keep myself occupied. But yeah, so we've got that going on in September, and then there's the whole. I kind of want to go to Manchester for CitizenCon, and host a bar citizen on CitizenCon Day, or 2 days now, I guess as it is. And see people up there and just see if we can invite as many of the studio staff as want to come along with us. But yeah, something like that would be pretty cool. But again, more money. Yes, yeah, Matthew. Friendship is heresy. Magic, yeah, magic is friendship. Friendship is heresy. But yeah, lots of bits and pieces to do. And if that's the case, then Starfield absolutely will not be, top of my list for that time, because 300 quid is a lot of beer tokens that could be going to, I don't know, beer or travel or accommodation, not sleeping in the car, that sort of thing. But yeah, Wrestler says, I like Fallout 4. Skyrim is still my favourite game just to mess around in. Yeah, one word or one line review of Skyrim. Mod it till it breaks. I vote you host in South Wales instead. Yeah, not going to get a lot of studio staff in South Wales, I don't think. Trust me, I mean, I'm in South Coast UK. I'd prefer not to do the 4.5, 5 hour drive to Manchester from here, but wow, bribe them with sheep. I mean, I'm leaving that one there. I'm not even touching that. But yeah, so let's have a look. So yeah, a couple of comments in here, and Chris Eichenlaub, I believe, that's how that's pronounced. Apologies if it's not. Says you've really got to be careful with this kind of speculation. This community has a bad history with content creators speculating something that creates a toxic expectation and misrepresents the overall health of the project. Yes, which is why, all the way through I tried to caveat it with it might not be, it might not be, it might not be. And CIG have done nothing to help this. Squadron 42 still isn't back in the store, so you can't buy it as a game package at the moment. You can't buy it at all, I don't believe. So for some reason it's not out, and we've got a 2-day CitizenCon, which has happened before, I believe. Oh, sorry, not the 2-day. What's happened before is the having 2 tiers of tickets, having like a normal ticket and then a premiere experience ticket, I believe. Edison will be able to speak more to that, but Edison seems to remember that existed. Yeah, so that sort of stuff. I'm not saying for a second that Squadron is coming. It's just, had it been any one of these things in isolation, I wouldn't have blinked. And like I said, if I'd thought this was, I would have tried very, very hard at the beginning of the year. I would have refocused a bunch of things, and I would have, because if you look back at the live streams at the time, I talked about going. Had I any suspicion at the beginning of the year that this could have even possibly been a Squadron 42, I would have moved a lot of things to try and be there for that announcement. That is now not possible. It's not possible. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but I don't think it's the case that it's coming quickly. So I think if there is a release date, it's going to be 6 to 12 months from that CitizenCon. It may well not be, and like I said, the thing is I'm not into the wild speculation. I'm not interested in a lot of that stuff. The bit about the health of the project, I'm not as kind of convinced with that. There is a comment in here somewhere that I think we're going to come on to, which is something about look at the state of the. In fact, it might have been removed. Not by me, but someone might have taken it down because I can't see it. But I think someone made a comment like, wait, look at the state of the game. And then you think that Squadron 42 is coming. It's like, well, yeah, because they're focusing on that first. And there is no read across between the state of PU and the state of Star Citizen Squadron 42. There's no equivalence at the moment. Everyone is working on Squadron 42, as we know, and we've been told repeatedly. So yes, of course the PU is going to suffer. But there was a comment that went something like, I'm sure it was in here somewhere. Here we go. Okay, so Eagle Success says, look at the current PU experience and you think Squadron 42 is coming soon. I was suggesting that maybe something as interesting is happening, and that's one of the possible things because they've gone to 2 days at CitizenCon. And I'm not being pedantic. I've been trying to go very carefully with my words, Eagle Six, and I know you're not here as a troll, and please don't anyone in the comments think he's trolling. He's been here for a long old while commenting, and we see eye to eye on a lot of stuff. So this is just an honest disagreement. But he says, that's like saying your house will be ready, but all there. So I don't know whether this is, because this is the scenario that I use, right? And whether it's, he's just poking a bit of fun at me for using that analogy all the time. But he says, they'd like to announce that they are pausing Squadron 42 to put the 1,000 staff back onto the PU. That's a Squadron 42 update I can get behind. We can't read into the state of Squadron 42 from PU at all. Just, you can't do it. The two aren't the same thing at all. They're not even in the same ballpark, right? Because of Squadron 42, everything's only got to look right to one player. It doesn't matter what happens with everything else. It's not persistent. There aren't things happening when you're not there. It's a single player. Everything is revolving around you. Whereas, obviously, MMOs are entirely different. So I don't think they're the same thing. But yeah. So I absolutely agree with that. And then John Vudisal says, do you think we'll have a Day 1 4.0 Pyro presentation? Day 2 Squadron 42 announcement? And an RSI-focused IE with those larger vehicles? I don't know. They certainly seem to be setting up that way. However, what's really interesting is Chris Roberts' comments from the forums have been removed. Go prove me wrong. Hey Randall, thank you very much for greeting us. R Graceful, thanks for popping in. And I'm just going to clarify that now. I am not saying that Squadron 42 release date is coming this year. I'm saying that they've changed a whole bunch of things at once, which has changed my mind from we're absolutely not getting a Squadron 42 update this year to, alright, it's possible. Okay, and that's where I've gone from it. Why I talk about not preparing for Los Angeles at the beginning of the year to now doing it. The change of location, the number of days. But one of Chris Roberts' comments talks about, the challenge that they had on previous Citizen Cons of having two things happening at once on two different stages. So when I went in 2019, you had two stages, you had to pick what you wanted to see. So maybe they're just not doing that. They're going to get everyone there for the whole thing, and it will be everyone sees everything. Because I'm sure there are some of those presentations they gave. One was massively more popular, and that must be quite disheartening for the team to rock up and see not a half-empty auditorium, but you know what I mean, right? To see clearly nowhere near as many people as what the other guys are working on. So I feel sorry for them in that respect. So maybe that's just an attempt to combat that. It absolutely could be. People talking about wanting to see Squadron 42. Squadron 42, Starfield, not even comparable, and they're not. Someone's poking fun at the fact that I'm only dying in 28 degrees centigrade. Thanks, Artec. Cheers. 40 to 43 here in Texas. No, you can keep that. Thank you very much. Yeah. So, and then I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, but we don't care about that trust. But they're still doing it instead of doing the game, so I don't know. Yeah. I mean, it was going to be one game, right? But here's the nice thing: is that if they do Squadron 42, is how much funding that could bring to the party, and how much focusing they could do, and how much of a pressure that might release from them. A successful Squadron 42 launch is a significant boon for the company. As for the 1,000 staff back onto the PU, they might be up to 1,000 staff now, but yeah. I doubt they're far off it, but they are still recruiting very, very heavily. 76 jobs, I think, on their website when we last looked. So yeah. Corn Cob says, I'm back, had to get food. Ooh, what'd you get? Anything nice? And do you have any spare? I'm so hungry. But yeah. Need to rework the Starfarer. Oh god, yes. Avi, I think it was yourself talking about the Titan charging dock for the Tally. I'd still like to see it. I think there's serious, work to be done going back through old stuff and then getting these modules out. I think that's likely still to come. But, the stuff that I saw, just some Taco Bell, nice. We got a Taco Bell over here, Con. I don't know where you're based, mate, but there's a Taco Bell in Southampton, which is about half an hour from here, which I could pick up because I work there sometimes. It's where our HQ is based. And I often think about going down to Taco Bell and maybe trying something, but it's just a little bit too far. It's like 20-25 minute walk in each direction from HQ. So by the time I get back to HQ and are able to eat this stuff, it'll be cold, which will be rubbish. Matthew, I don't think they're going to be all moved across to the PU. I reckon a small team will move across as they have multiple chapters. Yes, Jeff, Squadron 42, 3 episodes. So this is episode 1 with all its chapters, and then they'll go on from there. Matthew says, Starfarer needs a massive rework, more needed than the 600i or the 890 jump. Yeah, I think the interesting thing about the 600i and the 890 is that they've obviously just gone in with the ships that have all of their processes in at the moment, whereas there's still things to come, I think, for the Starfarer in terms of its scoops and its refinery and all that sort of good stuff. There's still work to be done getting that out and getting that kind of completely ready. So yeah, we'll see. It's a long walk just for some tacos. I mean, it is tacos, right? Because fucking tacos. But yeah, someone do that with the alien memes, like tacos. But yeah, yeah. Please don't. The last thing is badger themed memes kicking around the internet. That's a bad call. But yeah, just a couple of things I wanted to look at. First one is this bad boy. So let's kick across. So this is the image they released. It's on my community tab. If you want the image, just go and grab it. Failing that, I can share it through Discord. I don't know. Can someone tell me, is Discord in the link in the description? Because if not, I will pop a link up in the description of this video, and I'll put it in the chat as well so you can use it. But there is a Discord. I'm building a community Discord page. It is currently being converted from what it was, which was just a real life hub for friends. That's being separated out. So it will still be in there. You'll still be able to see all the people that I go to events with and stuff. Maybe you could become one of them. You know, we'll put up when we get where we're going and when. And there will be a path to membership for DGP, for Drinkers with Gaming Problems, because we are a group of in real life friends who go to events and all that sort of stuff together. It's not in. Thank you, Edison. I shall update that shortly. But yes, so that, you know, feel free to jump into Discord. It might not be as chatty and all that sort of stuff at the moment as you kind of would hope it would be, but we're getting there. So, you know, make sure you grab that invite and rock up. But you are more than welcome to come in and chat. I think Notorious has been in hanging out with us. Who else have we had? Stunner's been in, Ashra's been in. To come and have a chat, and if I'm in there, if I'm just in one of the chats, because there are chat rooms that you can't see as part of the community that I will hang out in when I'm busy or whatever. So if you can see me in there, it's because I'm making myself available to chat, and if you want to come and talk through stuff, then you are more than welcome to do so. Love to have you. So yeah, you are more than welcome to come across. But if you can't see it in this one, and I don't get around to it, you can click it from the last link, and I'll make sure now that it's saved as part of the format. But yeah, yeah. Thank you for checking. I'll pop that up in a second. Yeah. So that's all those bits and pieces. But yeah, that artwork kind of does make it look like it's not that far away. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, we've got all sorts of stuff to cover. Let's have a look. Cue the bit. Sorry, not as organised as I was with all the faff that's been going on trying to get online. Not quite as organised as I was hoping to be. By this stage, but also it's not been and much lesser of a beard here, but something I just wanted to show you. I was driving around the Isle of Wight in the UK, which is the little island on the south coast, when I was at work. So that's my own retina, but yeah, Macho, cheers mate, thank you very much for popping in. Shall see you in a little bit, my friend. But yes, this is the Drinkers with Gaming Problems Discord, so I will have a look and see. Server settings, invites, let's have a look. I created this one, invite code. Interesting. It's not giving me the actual invite code, which is a little bit frustrating, but that's okay. I can find it from the background. That's no problem at all. But for those that are interested, I'm just about to pop it in now into chat. There you go. It's in chat. So we are good to go. So that's for the Discord. And when you jump in, just say hello. I will assign you DGP community role. So yeah, and that will be you able to talk and kind of catch up with everyone. And hopefully in future, if I get delayed or anything, then I can pop it in there that what's going on. But I needed to get into it and fix the problem, and I was concentrating on that more than actually letting people know there's a problem. It was just going to add time. But yeah, let's go around to that. This happened on the Isle of Wight, which just, I was driving at the time, turned around, came back, pulled over, so I could get a photo for the sign. So yeah, badges for 1 mile. That is absolutely yeah, my favourite page, my favourite picture. Full stop, the end. But yeah. So hopefully I can go back to 2 monitors shortly, so you don't see all the stuff that's happening. It'll all be super smooth and you know, proper Stream Pro. But until then, you just get to see what I do, and hopefully I don't drop a clanger by leaving like a password or something on the screen. But yeah, we'll figure it out. Edison says, "Where's my DGP roll? Lost it in the post, mate. Sorry, don't get another one." Yeah, so that's that. Yeah, so unfortunately a slightly shorter chat than I was kind of hoping to do this time round, because despite the fact that I was a little bit late on, still got work tomorrow, still another full week of nonsense. So yeah, unfortunately it's not something that I can kind of really overrun too much, but we can kind of hang out a little bit longer, just a tiny little bit, and figure it out. But yeah. So yeah, come across to the Discord if that's going to be something you'd enjoy, or don't. It's entirely up to you. But yeah, one of the things that we're quite keen on is that people who are constantly in there, and people who kind of come to yeah. So the DGP thing, right now, that link to the Discord, just a bit further up. The Drinkers with Gaming Problems Discord, you can have basically DGP started as a group of friends who went to events, we went to LAN parties, and all play games together, and people have kind of got married and they've gone off and they've had families and all this sort of stuff, but we are still here. It's Drinkers with Gaming Problems that is organising the event in September. Napo Complex, who's just popped in to see us, hello mate, is one of DGP. He's the co-organiser of the Arctarius campaign, which is our Warhammer 40k campaign, commanding the mighty, God, I'm going to embarrass myself now, Imperial Guard Regiment, whatever ones you've got. Vestroyan Firstborn, those ones. But yeah, so we're a group of real life friends, and basically that's it. You just come to one of the events and meet up with us, and as long as nobody kills anyone else, then it's all good, and then you're in the clan, man. So yeah, you can come and do all that sort of stuff, and we're gonna if you're not a drinker, Retina, then I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed. Well, in that case, you better make sure that you've really got gaming problems. All right, so work on it. Never go with sharks. You'll make me go red. Yeah, mate. Yeah, get you in, embarrass you as soon as you come in. Water is a drink too. Well, I mean, everyone's got to drink something, right? So I'm on 0 fat. It is 0 fat. It's the zero sugar one. See, and it's cold, which is a key thing. All of our pipes at the minute are just kicking out lukewarm water. It's just awful. But yeah, so a couple of things to look out for. I will hopefully be around this coming weekend. A very good friend of mine, he and I and his family and his young lad Archie, we are all going to a military show this weekend, so that's going to be really cool. But yes, and then hopefully I shall have some show and tell stuff as well. I've got some stuff coming, including the Diablo 4 Collector's Edition box, so maybe I'll wait until we're on the stream and then pull that and then have a look, and we can share that together, which will be exciting. But yes, yeah, hopefully it'll cool down by next weekend, although I'm not holding my breath. Cool. Shinobi says, my alcoholic drink of choice is yes. What's yours? I can answer that because it's right down. Shadow, yes. Yes, you did. And I'm only here because I embarrassed myself earlier with a bunch of problems and I was late. So, yeah. Oops. But my alcoholic drink of choice at the moment, Hazy Jane from Brewdog. So, yeah. That's in the fridge. But it's 11 o'clock at night and I'm not about to start imbibing alcohol now when I have work in the morning. So, yeah. How hot is it? Only 92 in Florida, 33.3 degrees C. Yeah, you Florida people, you can just, no, stop. Not. This is quite good fun where I can just kind of, like, get it to. I look like I'm skiing and it's just trying to keep me in. It's working really hard to keep me in the centre of the screen. But yeah, no, it's not that hot, but it's hot for the UK. Alright. We are considerably further north than you are. So, shush. As to how much further north, do you know what? You've piqued my interest now. And I'm going to go and have a look. But we are a lot further north than you absolute rotter. So, oh God, awfully. So I'm going to just Google this now. Florida, lat and long. So you're 27 degrees north. So we were basically double the distance from the equator to you. But you are not double the temperature. We are only 4 or 5 degrees cooler than you at the minute. It's a bit much. English people don't do this. Well, at least I got a cheeky bit of badges before it was too late. Yes, you did. Yes, absolutely. Badgers, does it live up to the name and make you hazy? Yes. Brewdog beers, they are not cheap. They're artisan IPAs and ales. But yes. And Brewdog, if you happen to hear this, hit me up with a sponsorship. I'm all for it. Just keep me in beer and I will be a happy boy. Yeah, Asher says, same for the Netherlands. Toasty. Yeah, even just a window AC unit does amazing work. The weird thing is in the UK that it just doesn't justify it, like ever. You know, I'm managing to survive at the top of the house at the moment, so it's not as bad as all that. But yeah, it's still pretty damn warm up here when it gets going. Ouch, I know how that feels when I was stationed at Fort Lewis. All the houses were built to keep it in. Yeah, we are built of brick. We are built to maintain. Edison Trent says, I did think you already have a sponsorship. I do. I have a sponsorship with an awesome guy who creates computers in the Netherlands. He custom builds computers for people. And very first part of that sponsorship was I got a Retaliator base, which was really nice of him. Yeah, that's cool. One that's supposed to be a secret. Well, I've just blown the lid on that one. Oops. Yeah, so during the day, Shadow Girl, it's 28 degrees. So it's a bit rough. For us, anyway. Because, like I said, everything is brick. And it works to keep heat out as well. It does do that pretty well. The problem is, once they heat up, they take a while to cool down. So you are cooler outside than you are in by some degrees overnight. And we're lucky that the wind's picked up today. So, I mean, I haven't closed my windows here in over a month upstairs to just try and continue to vent the whole place. It's a bit rough, but yeah. 39 Edison. That's ridiculous. That's just hot. But yeah, you know, the only buildings that really over here have air conditioning are commercial buildings, buildings with computers and stuff. So I'm quite lucky when I go to work in that completely air conditioned. Actually was in danger of being cold last week. But you know, the minute you get outside, it's just rough. But yeah, it is calming down. We are getting there slowly. Um, it's not the end of the world, and I think I will at some point look at investing in. There's floor standing ones you can get, like air conditioning units that's just water cooled, and that's it. Um, yeah, it does get a little bit toasty. The nice thing is this week now it's due to it's scheduled to cool down quite dramatically. So it's scheduled to go down to about 21, 22, peaking on the weekend at 23, and then just stay cool. But yeah, 26 degrees is too hot for me. Yeah, absolutely. I just like look, we are. We're just not built for it up here. We are 54 degrees north, so we're literally double Florida in terms of distance from the equator, which is not built for it at all. We have probably, it can get to the point where it's actually they send out warnings across the UK to warn people to like keep your dogs inside and don't make them walk on the tarmac and all that sort of stuff. So yeah. It can get a bit gnarly. But yes. Cool. Right, seeing as we have inadvertently descended into a conversation on the weather, I think that's bedtime for this call site. So yeah, thank you very much to those who stuck around. I really, really appreciate it. Again, apologies for not being here. I should be next weekend. In for Sunday night as well. If I'm not, just keep an eye on the community tab. There will, if I'm not here, obviously no warning will go up, and also that obviously I'll put something up on the community tab to just warn people, and try to put something in Discord as well, just to let you know that it's not going to happen. Alright, so you don't end up hanging around on your Sunday evenings or afternoons or wherever it is for you at this time. I'm waiting. But yeah. San Francisco and California, awesome. Sometimes we get heat waves. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thank you very much for stopping by, guys. And hopefully we'll get a little bit more content covered in the next one. But always good to chat you all. You've been watching Drinkers with Gaming Problems. Thank you very much for stopping by. See you soon. Awkward pause while I find the stream ending button a little like this.